pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for our invocation, James Smith of the East Dillon Baptist Church is going to deliver that for us. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Let's pray. Father, as we come into your presence, we want to give you thanks and say how grateful we are for faithful citizens who are willing to serve on council, to lead and to guide our community. And Father, we thank you as we look around this room for the faithful citizens who attend these meetings. Father, to see the work that's taking place or the work that needs to take place. But Father, we ask, Lord, that you take our counsel tonight, and God, that you might touch them, give them wisdom, lead and guide them, Father, as they make their decisions and bring about the rules that need to be taken part in, Lord. May it be that which will be good for Dillon, the city of Dillon, and the people of Dillon, and may they be wise in their decisions, and we'll give you faithful thanksgiving in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Smith. All right. Before we go into the approval of the agenda, I'd like to make two adjustments. Could we move Weston and Sampson Engineering? Lisa, I hope you don't mind. Could they go right in front of you?
Sure.
All right. Let's move them in front of Lisa. And let's also add a legal matter to the executive session.
I make the motion.
I say. All in favor?
Discussion. Can we ask for the police chief to be back for the legal matter?
He will be.
He will be?
Yeah, he and Benny both.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right. All in favor? All right, so moved. All right, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on April the 10th. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, passed. All right, now for the mayor's report. Let me tell you, I got a lot to say, but I'm going to save some of it for later. It's been a really, really busy April. And I really think that's good because that just shows that we have a very active city. And having an active city, in my opinion, is great. I was really happy to meet with the departments, the department heads, to listen to their concerns, the opportunities that they had. That's always a good thing. I've also met with some outside groups like the Dillon Chamber, the DCA, and the Downtown Merchants Association. It's always good to hear from those outside groups as well. So I've really enjoyed that. We discussed different ways that we can all work together for the betterment of the city, and very, very good conversations. Last week, Lisa and I went out and met with the South Carolina Workforce and Employment Group. I don't know if you guys have heard about them, but I was really impressed. So that's a cabinet level position from my understanding. Lisa, is that correct? Cabinet level position. And William Floyd, the director for that office for the state, was in Dillon all day. And we expressed some interest to them about maybe having a joint event downtown, maybe at the fountain when Lisa gets the visitor center, when it's finished down there at her office. This crowd is extremely professional, and they're in the business of connecting employers with employees and employees with employers. And I can't say enough about how professional they were. And you know, this is what this community, this is what this city really needs, is to get people to the right place to work. So I was happy about that. I'd also like to thank Glenn, Lisa, Public Works, the Chamber, the Fire Department, the Police Department, for an incredible Celebrate Maine. I don't know how many people were down there, but it looked to me to be one of the biggest crowds that I've seen down there, Glenn. It was just incredible. When I looked across that crowd, I was so proud of how well organized it was and just to be part of it. It was very nice. And I can't say enough, Bert, for your guys down there, the city employees. I got down there what I thought was early, but they told me they got there at 6. I left a little bit after 10 when the band stops. I think they left at 12. So they worked all day long, and they did it with a smile. And I thank you, and I thank them for all they did. David, all your guys were right there with them the whole time. So please pass that along to them. Also, I have to thank our sponsors, Anderson Brothers, First Citizens, First Bank, and of course Duke Energy for their stage. And then we had the Methodist men. They always show up and cook. And I can't tell you how much the city employees really appreciate the Methodist men for what they do and their time out there. And then we followed up Celebrate Maine with the First Friday last Friday. And again, I've been going to a lot of them. It looked like a huge crowd, and everyone had a good time. Kids running everywhere. There was ices and food and music, and just a great time. And then last Thursday, I was really honored to be part of this, and we can never have too much of this. But the Dillon Pastors Association, or Alliance, had the National Day of Prayer at the courthouse steps. And Johnny, I know you were out there. That was really nice, and I was very impressed with how well put together that was. And I can't say much. In fact, I'm going to meet with those guys this coming Thursday if you have anything you'd like to pass along. And then one more event. Just left the farmer's market, so I've got a truck full of jams and jellies. And, I at least put the chicken salad in the refrigerator before I came. So that was also a good event. All right, on to the city. I'd like to make another thank you to Glenn and our elected officials in Columbia. I don't know if everyone's heard, but we got a $10 million water and sewage grant. And this grant only has a 15% match, and this will go a long way to our very needed upgrades to our water treatment facility and maybe the electric water meters. So I want to thank our crowd in Columbia, Jackie Hayes and Kent Williams, and of course Glenn for putting all this together. So that's very important. And lastly, I'd like to back up the county council with stating that the city of Dillon is not comfortable with the explosive training facility that is proposed in the Baker's Mill area of Dillon County. And that is it for my report. Now to Mr. Glenn.
So you had the easy stuff.
That's all fault.
Well, since you brought up the $10 million grant, and I appreciate you patting my back on that. I just asked for us to apply for it. It was actually AECOM, our wastewater engineers, and Lindsay Privet with PD Council of Government who put that package together on our behalf. And yes, it is $10 million. A portion of that is, as we've talked about before, was the upgrade of the water meters. So one, we can have reliable readings, two, quicker turnaround on readings, which would be hopefully radio read, was something we had planned for in the last 2 years because we had some money set aside in the ARP fund to do some of those things. And then the additional 1 million gallons at the wastewater treatment plant would kind of give us a little Band-Aid, that's a good word, until we can get a larger plant built. And I know that Matthew Ellington's here, he loves to hear that, because as I've said many times before, we're almost at 98% of what we're allocated to treat on a daily basis. Doesn't mean that we treat that much, but based off of what we've promised to industries and what we've told DHEC, we're around 98%. So this extra million could help some things that help Matthew attract some industries within our service area. Now, all that being said, it's hard to give you. There's not much changing in that 1 million gallons, just some changing some air fires and maybe the grit system. Is that correct?
Installing a larger clarifier on the oval basin side.
And cleaning out the big basin, am I
Yes.
correct? Which the big basin is where everything comes into the head of the plant, and over time it's kind of like a sandbar at the bottom of that lagoon, for lack of terminology. So we need to get that cleaned out, which would give us more gallons there as well.
Originally, that was going to cost us about $1 million. That was 15 years ago. How much?
That was doing something, I think, out at the spray field. This would be at the actual plant behind the vocational school. Is what we're doing. So
There
our
it goes
footprint's
up.
really not gonna grow. It's more of getting larger motors and cleaning the grit out of the large lagoon. Is that correct, Art?
Yes, sir.
But it would give us a larger capacity.
It would give us about an additional million
Million.
gallons a day, yes, sir.
Wait, is there still the ability to go out to the treatment, or to the spray fields?
To upgrade there?
Right.
Yeah, there are.
Isn't there a million-gallon potential out there?
There is
as well?
about a million gallons from when Husky Gay Bell designed that. Now, what that cost would be, I don't remember exactly, but I think when we
Years
looked,
ago,
yeah,
so.
and when we looked at it years ago, was there more land that had to be purchased, Art, do you remember?
They were trying to see if we could get more land, but it wouldn't pass.
And then, with all that, I have been in contact with the county leadership, along with, again, economic developer Matthew Ellington, about our dreams and plans for on the other side of 34, on the west side of 95, to build a larger plant there to kind of take over the industrial demand in that area. We'll hopefully get a meeting in Columbia with those folks in the next several months. I think there's been some reach out from the PD COG and I believe from the county administration to some of the Washington delegates to see how much they can help us with this project as well.
Where's your 1.5 million coming from?
1.5
Depreciation?
could be depreciation, it could be monies in the future that we may get. It also could be by doing some bonds. Is it bonds that they do? And so I have a meeting I've got to attend the end of this month with the state, and they will go over different things with us. And once we have that information, we'll then kind of determine how we're going to come up with our match. Now, remember, this 1.5 is not something we write a check to up front. It's over a 3-year period as things are being done. Our portion, when the state pays a portion, we pay a portion of our 15%. So we're still a little ways out. This project has to be completed by December 30th, 2026. Because this money is coming from the feds to the state, or it came from the feds to the state, so they're now using this money for infrastructure projects throughout the state. So it does follow the CARES Act or an ARP type footprint.
Glenn, I know there's been talk along with the mayor about sitting down with some county council members. Is it soon? We can do that sooner than later, try to get that meeting so we can talk about how we can get this infrastructure and stuff done, see what kind of commitment they can give to the city.
I spoke to the mayor, I guess last week, we talked briefly about that. And I think it would be best, and y'all tell me, and they may tell different as well, that May and June, I think, is going to be pretty busy for us as far as budgets for both of us. It may be a July time frame type deal. And still got to work out how we're going to do it as well type deal. But yeah, that has been discussed and want to move forward with that. Because they need us and we need them. Especially on the wastewater treatment plant. I mean, this serves a good bit of our population, and it's there for industrial growth, and I think Matthew may hit on some of that tonight a little bit as well. But I would think in the next couple of months or so, we should be able to sit down. Speaking of budgets, I've tentatively scheduled, and going a little earlier than we have done in the past, because I think we have some issues that we need to work out. 3 dates to have budget workshops. That would be a week from today, the 15th, then the 18th, that following Thursday, and then if needed, the 22nd of May. Tonight we are going to present a first reading. Really, it's just by title, but that's just to get the process started. I am anticipating the final reading and public hearing won't be held at our regular June meeting, that we'll probably do like we've done in the past years at the end of the month. to have that done. And then also talking with the mayor here in the last week or so, and I think it's something that we need to address or to agree to, is that he's going to be out of the country June the 8th through the 15th. And our next scheduled meeting is June the 12th. I would recommend that we take our next regular scheduled meeting and make that June the 5th, if y'all don't mind. Instead of doing it next week after that, I think it would be better if we did it prior to our regular meeting, if y'all don't mind doing that. And if so, just need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
All right, so our next regular meeting will be Monday, June the 5th. That's all I have at this time.
All right, thank you for that. That was a lot. All right, Ms. Janet.
Okay, our general fund, our total cash accounts restricted and unrestricted, $3,115,187. We brought in $281,361 more in '23 than we did in '22. We spent $514,337 more in '23 than we did in '22. Our revenues that came in, the reason we had that was our sanitation, property tax, and local option sales tax. That's where we got those revenues from.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. On your construction permits, it showed $48,000 you got in this month versus what you had budgeted for $40,000. So you made more in 1 month than you had budgeted for the whole year. And what's the uptick? What's going on?
Well, most of that came from the renovation of the J.B. Martin School. That's probably where a majority of those permits was fees.
And they paid those during the month of April? Okay.
Water and sewer, our total,
Revenues to expense from, am I reading this correctly?
What page are you on? What was?
Front page.
Oh, okay.
Revenue to expense. The revenues are 4.7 million and our expenses are 5.7 million.
that's correct.
With $1 billion. Now, is that all going to be made up in, last year it was
800,000.
The difference was 800,000. I know we get a lot of money in June, but it sounds like we're behind 200,000.
We're not, we'll be fine. He's still collecting business license. Early. And then we'll get-
This is a big time of the year of collection for.
Right, I understand that, but last year at this time, we were just 800,000 behind, and this year we're $1 million behind.
You're talking about revenues versus
Yeah.
expenses.
Right here,
Yeah.
he's looking here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But our revenue
Yeah.
end's only 59%, so
Now,
We should
it's still
be,
40% off.
he should be at 66% if everything was equal on the revenue
So some of
side.
our funding's been held from us.
No, it just
No,
comes
It
at
just
different
happens
times
in
of the year.
June, but my comment was, it's the same thing happens every year. Last year, we were 800,000 behind, and this year, we're $1 million behind.
But you also, this year, our costs, health insurance, fuel,
Understand
all
that.
that increased, but we didn't increase any revenue.
Yeah, we did.
We didn't do any millage increase.
We didn't do a millage increase, we did something, trash.
Did we do sanitation?
Yes.
Okay.
We did that.
We increased the trash.
But now she
When we started the budget process last year, I was concerned about 10% inflation and trying to build that into our budget. And as we approach this year, we can't get behind another year.
She got a big check last week from the state that we wasn't looking for.
No, but I think payment was,
Okay.
yeah, we did. They just had it a little bit different.
Gotcha.
Okay. But you know, your equipment repairs and electricity and all that went up a lot more
Right.
in this budget year than the last budget year. But I see what you're saying there.
It's, yeah, I mean, it basically, what's our budget for the year is like 4.5 million.
For general fund, 6, I think.
6 million.
Altogether.
For general.
6.3.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just need to be aware that we're still in an inflation period when we go about doing our budget. We just, I don't want to work our way back into a bad place.
Neither do we.
No. Okay, water and sewer, our total cash accounts restricted and unrestricted, we have $4,721,198. We brought in $80,557 less in '23 than we did in '22. And we have spent $282,122 more in '23 than we did in '22. And again, that goes back to your electricity, your equipment repairs, your equipment of rentals, chemicals, and engineering.
Again, revenues to expense. One, revenues are down. To do, how, are we doing?
No, I just think, we had water sewer tap fees were down compared to the previous year. And of course, your water sewer sales, that was down.
And a lot of that, I think, as well, on the water and sewer sales, is once we get these new meters in and doing what we do, we'll have more accurate readings. Because we went through about 6 to 9 months struggling to make sure all the readings that we were getting were correct. And we've done a lot of changing because there's been some high usage that normally are not there in different locations. So,
You know, at one time we looked it up. We didn't ever follow back up on it, and our tap fees were one of the lowest around in the
yeah, and
area.
we're doing a rate study now, and that'll be a part of the rate study.
But for total budgetary revenue, we're still 100,000 ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
We had some unexpected fees there, but we're still 100,000
well,
ahead.
from the revenue standpoint on water and sewer, when I do the budget, Janet and I do that, we don't budget 100% of our anticipated revenues. We do not do that.
And of course, I don't include the grant funds in there.
That's on the third page there on the revenue account, Department 35.
Well, if you look at
298, you're 100 ahead.
revenues here, year to date,
Your budget is 4,043, and your current date is 1.142 in. So you're 98,592.
Based off the budget.
Great. You're 120% above what we should be.
Now, that 3.7 that you're looking on the front page does
Yeah.
not include grant money that's in that
Yeah.
I
revenue.
understand
Yeah.
that, but it didn't a year ago either. What I see is that we're 80,000 short, in revenues from,
Compared to this time last year.
this time last year.
Yes.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, that's true.
But what you're pointing out, based off of our budget revenue, what we budgeted, we have collected 102, almost 103%. So
But
we've met our budget, what we budgeted.
our budget is designed to create, money so that we can
Yes.
do these matching things. So 115, 2 months away from end of fiscal year, you know, we're not where we need to be.
We had some big unexpected charges, though, from hardest department, of course. A couple of different things out there that had to be changed out. And that was probably in excess of, what, 50, 60, Jan?
When you look at
22,000 more this year in expenses than last year. We didn't do a rate adjustment last year, so,
We did not.
you know, basically you lost, I mean, I feel like you lost 10%, you know, with 10% inflation, what's our budget there? 4 million, 4.5 million?
A little over 4 million, yeah.
So, and that's about what we're gonna lose, 400,000.
And what's the max we can take the meals of? What's the max we can go to meals? 2 meals is the max?
Yeah, well, that was the state will send out something,
And that generates how much?
that'd be anywhere about 45,000. But the state
Couldn't
will.
last year because we had a
Reassessment.
And the state will send something out here in the next couple of weeks or so on what we can do on
Well, how did the reassessment affect us?
Well, the reassessment is we could not bring in more money this year compared to the previous year.
Well, how is that gonna adjust this list?
Well, because the
Extra money.
the properties were reassessed to a higher value. So
Do you have an estimate of how much extra money we gonna have?
I don't know. And we went, and I'm just using round numbers for this, we were at like 102 meals this time last year prior to reassessment. And let's just say 102 meals, for simple math, a meal equals $1, so that was $102. Well, when reassessment come back, you know, we had to drop our millage from 102 to 90. So to equal that $102, now a meal is worth $1.20, you know, to be the same. That's how your millage grows in simple math.
Well, one more quick question as far as last year, I can't remember, what did we raise the rates? Was it a 3% raise or on the residential?
For water and sewer,
No.
we didn't raise any money.
We didn't do that.
The only thing we did was sanitation.
Well, what was that?
That was probably 3 or 5%. Well, it may, well, 5%. I think it was 5%. And the only reason we did that was because the county was increasing their landfill charges. It was anywhere from 15 to 20%.
But we also were trying to offset the expense of 20% increase.
Under health insurance. Where this year, we're looking at a 2% or 3%. something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The golf course, our cash account is $30,665. We have the earmark funds of $539,925, which is earmarked and can't use it, but what was earmarked for, so I don't include that in the cash account. We brought in $17,810 more in '23 than we did in '22. We spent $90,355 more in '23 than we did in '22. And a lot of that was equipment repairs, chemicals, contractual, and diesel.
And just for everybody's purpose, you may know or may not know, the golf course is closed for pay right now because we're doing renovations on the greens. That was closed 24th of April, is that correct, Bert?
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we'll have it open again. What's our timeline having temporary greens?
First or second week of June.
And then we should be back to our permanent greens sometime August, September.
Yes, sir.
Construction on the shed and all that's being done now,
I don't know, they haven't been started yet.
Waiting on them to come.
and the paving.
Paving, we're waiting on that as well.
Is it gonna be an actual paving job, or is it gonna be coated?
Right now, paving, we're just working through some value engineering, and I was hoping to have some information prior to our meeting tonight, but I didn't get it, so we'll have something to talk about in June on that.
As far as the bids, what's up with the bids?
We only received one.
So where do we go with that?
We're looking at value engineering where we can take that bid and say, yes, we can do that, no, we don't need to do this, and waiting on the engineering firm to give us a recommendation of what we should or should not do.
2% hospitality fund, we've got $1,213,028. We brought in $46,526 more in '23 than we did in '22. I have transferred $135,000 as of April the 30th. We have spent $84,608 more in '22 than we did in '23 due to purchasing land.
Is that the ones?
Up there. Yeah. I thought that was in the last year before.
That was land we purchased there.
A little strip.
Yeah, and we only have 2 payments left on the wellness center. And the American Rescue Fund, we have $2,487,344 that is earmarked to be spent. We have a total of $3,141,892. Stormwater, we brought in $1,002 less in '23 than we did in '22. We brought more in '22. We spent $212,517 more in '22 than '23 due to the backer truck. We had that, and we had the stormwater study, which we're going to get funds back on that. So, that's it.
Are they through in behind hillside?
Everything's done except putting the fence around the lift station, correct, Hardy?
The lift station and grading some in the right of way.
And fixing some property that they damaged. But as far as it working, everything's working.
Got it? All right, thank you for that. All right, now we have the girls from Weston and Sampson Engineering, Megan Moody and Paige Lux. Thank you, girls, for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm not sure the best place to stand. What should I do?
Wherever you
Okay.
like.
I'll project if that's okay. I was in chorus, I was a soprano, I learned how to talk loud. Okay, so Megan Moody and my name is Paige Lux, we're with Weston and Sampson Engineers. We are an environmental engineering consulting firm, but in South Carolina we mostly do water, wastewater, and stormwater work. We are here to talk about stormwater real quick tonight. We hear you have a flooding problem, and we're hopeful that we can help fix it. So just to give a little bit of background on how we got here, y'all have had a few severe flooding events, namely with hurricanes coming through, Florence and then Matthew. Matthew, you actually got over 9 inches of rain in a single day with that storm event. But there's also been other severe storm events that have led to flooding in the city, as well as some of the communities around Dillon. So HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, has determined that Dillon is a most impacted and distressed community, which has made y'all grant eligible. So that is what led to a South Carolina Office of Resiliency grant for stormwater infrastructure improvements, and that is what we are here to do. So we are designing stormwater improvements that are going to increase the capacity and conveyance of the stormwater system in Dillon. And y'all are going to continue seeing more severe and more frequent storm events due to climate change. So we're hoping that these projects and the investment in the system now will help mitigate flooding in the future and lead to fewer incidents of severe impacts to the community, severe financial impacts. The projects that we have right now were determined highest priority by that 2021 study that was performed by AECOM, but they are part of a larger system of improvements that need to be put in place still in Dillon. These are just the ones that were determined most important to address at the beginning. So I've got a few exhibits for y'all to look at, and was just going to kind of talk you through what we're doing. Please stop me for any questions along the way. So if you have a handout, I apologize, there's quite a few people here, I did not expect this. But the next page, page 2 in this, just kind of goes through what I just mentioned about how we got here with the SCORE funding and the grant, as well as shows in a flow chart kind of the process of an engineering project and how we go through this on our side working with Glenn. So we completed the project kickoff, and right now we're going through survey and utility coordination. Once we have those complete, we will move on to design, where we figure out how we're going to put these large systems in place in this community. And then we will move on to bid and construction, so actually get them in the ground. I do want to highlight that a big piece of this project for us has been the public outreach and involvement. Thank you, Glenn, again, for having us here to talk about this. We will also have a public meeting that we're looking at getting scheduled by the end of June. So, the next page. This shows 3 of the 4 projects that we're working on right now. And this is on the city side of Dillon. We also have 1 project in the county. And the goal of these improvements is really to take water from the north and facilitate movement south to the Lucius Channel and to the Lucius Channel outfall to get water away from the city so that the flooding is not as severe during these events. So this is the light blue and the dark blue are pipe size increases, and then the magenta, the pink color, is the Lucius Channel. We're actually making improvements to the channel itself.
What's
So-
the pipe size improvement?
They are going to increase by a minimum of 20 inches from where you're at now. So we are going to go in with a range of pipe sizes between 30 and 60 inches. Right now, most of the pipes are 40 inches and under. So the Dillon, City of Dillon, this light blue one right here, this is where we're putting in some of the largest pipes from what you have right now. Moving from top to bottom, you're increasing size from, I believe right now it's 24 inches in those areas. You're going to go up to 42-inch pipe, 48-inch pipe, and then as you move down towards the channel, that's where you're increasing from 40-inch pipes to 60-inch pipes. So we've got quite a bit of room we're going to need for these pipes to go into the ground, while also maintaining the elevation so that we're getting the drainage that we need. These are just some screenshots from Google Earth to show this is a more urban area with these improvements, and these are quite large pipes, so we're doing a lot of investigation into the other utilities right now to figure out the plan for that. The next page, this magenta, is the Lucius Channel. That's going to involve mostly clearing the brush out of the channel as well as widening. Potentially some deepening in areas, but that's mostly where sediment has occurred and the elevations aren't what they need to be in order to facilitate movement of the water out.
Is that where we had the issues with beaver dams?
Yes. Yeah, so
Yeah,
as you
they
get
saw
down.
that one day.
So actually,
About the beaver.
yeah, we learned a lot about beavers that day. Yeah, so down here, this last picture on the other side is where those beaver dams are. So that's where we're adding in an outfall pipe as well as lowering the pipe that's there.
Now, how much is this going to increase our watershed potential underneath the ground?
I don't have that number. I didn't memorize it from the study. I'm sure it's in there, but we're going to reconfirm that after we get the design in place and make sure the design that we have planned lines up with the goals of that study and of this project.
So the
And we'll be
goal
able to
is
do
to
that.
funnel it out to a larger system.
Correct.
Correct. The larger system is everything downstream of Lucius. That is outside the scope of this project. It is potential that it might need to be studied at one day, but it is larger than what you have currently upstream of that Lucius Road.
But at Lucius Road on the fallout in the Maple Swamp, I guess that's the fallout.
Yes.
What's our capacity there? Is it low enough down to,
That would be a
are we
question.
going down even?
That would, you have capacity
Yes.
there. That's not in the question. The how much is unknown because it has not been studied. So it was not studied because it was determined that it had sufficient capacity that it did not need to be studied as though it were part of the problem. If that makes
I just wish we
sense.
still had commissioners over Maple Swamp, which I think that was limited years ago. But I just think we need to grow in that area. It needs to be maintained so we drain Dillon out. Not it comes back on us.
Yeah.
The outfall going into that swamp, the swamp has a lot more capacity than what it's able to use up because that outfall is undersized. And so in order for it to actually get out when it needs to, it has to go over that road and it causes damage to the road. So So by adding that additional outfall capacity right there underneath the road, you're going to see less of that tailwater effect that you're getting in the city of Dillon, because that swamp has plenty of room for all that water to spread out, and then it's very spongy material, so it's going to soak in. And so hydrologically, the swamp has more capacity than what it's actually able to tap into, because that outfall is blocking up so much.
Do we have any basin lands outside of that Maple Swamp range for water to go out into?
That would be something that we would have to look at to see if that's something that could be explored, to see if you had more room for storage. Within the city, you likely have other areas you could tap into for storage, but without looking at it through a model, you can't tell just by looking at the surface if hydraulically it'll connect where it can get in, sit and store, and then get back out.
So what you're trying to do is say if it rains at 9 inches, we'll be able to handle it 9 or 10, whatever, we got to have a goal there to reach.
The goals were set by score. I do apologize.
Can we handle a rain at 5 inches? Can we handle a rain at 9 inches?
All depends on how quick it comes.
Yeah.
Well, it
So,
looks like in a storm proceeding, it's like 3 hours,
You got an
3 to
inch
4
an
hours.
hour.
Inch an hour.
when we do the modeling, which is coming up with the design in conjunction with that, we will model specific storm events, and we will include a rain bomb. It's become a standard practice for me, in addition to 24-hour storms. Those rain bombs tend to cause more issues than the long sustained 24-hour storms. So I've been including a 3 or 4 hour summer rain bomb that's more consistent with our flooding issues in the coastal regions.
That's gonna have to go down the middle of the road. And
Say again, I'm sorry?
a 60-inch pipe, that's gonna have to go down the middle of the road.
We've gotten as-built on the utilities, we're getting survey right now. It does look like the utilities are mostly limited to gas and water. And so we're working through potential relocations for that pipe. So right now, we're anticipating it going in the right-of-way, not in the middle of the road. But it is all based on the elevations of those utilities and if we can move them or not.
Now, our existing.
That's not to say that there won't be
Yes,
road impacts.
correct, there will, yes, exactly. It
All right.
doesn't mean there won't be road impacts.
Our existing areas in Dillon for drainage, are y'all looking at that too, to make sure that we're 100% open?
We are
Where
not
we need
doing
to
any
be?
investigation to determine the existing condition of those pipes that are not within the project area. So where the project scope is to replace in place where those pipes are currently. So when they get put in, where we have done the work, they will be wide open. Anything outside of that scope of the project would need to have an investigation done in order to determine if they are clean and
Well, I think crossing
full
Dillon
capacity.
on Hampton, we have a smaller pipe system there. It connects to a larger, to a small one, to a larger one.
What they're basing this
Physics,
on
obviously, that won't work.
is, 2 years ago, we had a study done that was paid by the state and the feds. And in that study, there were 30-odd projects that need to be addressed. We applied for a grant, and I'm just rounding numbers, about $4 million, I believe it was. And these are the top 3 priorities in which connect together that we thought would give us the best bang for the buck. So that's what they're dealing with, is just those 3 areas in this particular grant.
And this is at the downstream point of that study, so you can't do any of the other ones until this one is in place as far as construction goes. You work at the bottom of the shed and then come up, so this is the best place to start.
Yeah, and there is, you're right, there's one of those pipes that's like a large pipe, it's, I think 30 inches down to 18 and then back up to 30 again. So that's getting fixed in this as well. So yeah, the channel improvements are going to facilitate a lot of that drainage. Once we run the model, we'll know more about what it can handle. But yeah, these projects are the start of increasing capacity in that system to handle the flooding. One of the other critical pieces of the city side is the crossing of the CSX Railroad. And that will end up being a 60-inch pipe under the railroad. So that is going to be a lot of coordination with CSX on that, which we've already begun. And then the final piece is the Riverdale. This is a Dillon County project. And right now, this area mostly just has non-functioning ditches, essentially. They don't really work like they should to move water away from houses to more drainage areas like wetlands. So we're going to be widening and deepening to try to improve the drainage in those areas.
And just so you understand, they've got the contract through the state to do our grant and the counties.
Yes.
So they're doing all this together. We're not having to play into the rules we just talked about, but it's part of their total cost.
Yes.
What is your timeline from start to finish happening?
We've got Glenn's retirement as our timeline. So April 2025, I believe, is my construction completion. Hopefully, we will be able to meet that. With a lot of the inflation going on, we were trying to get some good numbers in from our subs with geotech and survey, so we're kind of reorganizing the project process to keep moving forward while also being good stewards of the funding. So we're looking at design completion, I'm hoping by the end of the year, early next year, and then moving to construction 24 to early 25.
Glenn, you're not gonna be able to go anywhere this evening.
I told them, when they gave me the timeline a couple of months ago, that, I like to see this done before I do retire. So. And it's a process.
One cork out.
But they are going to have public meetings, I think June, July.
Looking at the end of June, yes.
And the goal is to have them at the fire department on 8th Avenue, because that's where most of this area is going to take places in that area. So those folks that live there easily be accessible to their public hearing meetings to get feedback and things of that nature.
Would that be in the afternoon time meeting?
We're looking at 4 to 6 p.m. So that way we're catching people at the end of the day on the way home from work, after kids' soccer practice, but before dinner and putting kids to bed. But we're open to suggestions on that. We just wanted to catch the most people as possible.
And as soon as we nail that down, we'll put that out for everybody to know, well enough in advance to make efforts to come to it. And there may be, instead of one, there may be 2 or 3, we just don't know that yet. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
All right, and we have a, what is it, monthly meeting that we have? Is it monthly?
Yes, we have
Yes.
a monthly meeting, and I
We have a
think,
monthly Zoom meeting with the state as well. To know what's going on.
Good deal.
Thank
Y'all
you.
be safe.
Thank y'all.
we appreciate it.
Miss Lisa?
I almost felt like I should clap after they got done. That's what I wanted to. So I'm going to skip around. I've given y'all a council summary, but I'm going to move around just a little bit. I think the mayor said it all. To stand on a stage and welcome the community and to be able to watch down the street as people are coming in to fill the streets of an event that you've worked so hard to plan with so many different people and to be so successful. I've never been involved in an event from 6 a.m. until I left about 11:14, I think, but most staff left about 12 o'clock, for there not to be a single incident related to police officers or EMTs. So that one, it sounds a lot, this says a lot about our community wanting to come together to truly have a good time and celebrate what the city of Dillon does have to offer. I can't thank enough the Public Works and the police department and Johnny Lures with the chamber. All the vendors that came out also, we had 57 this year. I hope to see it grow next year. But it truly was a spectacular moment to stand there at about 2 o'clock and see everybody doing what you hoped that they would do. Buying stuff, eating food, and listening to music and being entertained and just hanging out in chairs, in the shade or wherever they were to enjoy what it is so many of us came together to provide to them. I believe it was about the 19th year that we've done this, so I look forward to the years to come to see how it grows. And I've worked for a lot of governments over the years with special events, and we truly do have a dedicated Public Works and Police Department and Fire Department staff. I'm just utterly amazed at the support, so thank you very much for all that. It's truly a relief to see to be clean all day long, the trash cans. And I know it seems trivial to some things, but they really did work together to make it just a smooth and an amazing day. First Friday at the Fountain was just a lot of fun. Once again, about 6:15, you see everybody starting to descend upon the layout, the footprint of the event, and once again, they're doing what you'd hope they do. Have a good time, bringing their chairs and their families and the kids, and there was so much to do, and the band was amazing, and the weather was great. It's just been a great event season so far with Celebrate Maine, and with First Friday. I look forward to the next one in June, and the other First Fridays through August. Eats on the Streets kicks off officially on Wednesday. We'll have 8 food trucks. I'm in the process of interviewing 4 new ones and bringing some new ones to the mix also, along with the ones that were here last year. And then our new Screen on the Green will start this Saturday. We'll be doing that all the way through October, and the green is the buffet lot. It's kind of green in some places. But it'll be a nice location to have the event, so I'm looking forward to all of those. It's going to be a busy season pretty much now all the way through October into November too. So lots of things for us to do here in our community. Wanted to congratulate Alexis Pittman and Alicia Lewis. Both of these women have purchased their own buildings to relocate their businesses. Alicia Lewis is our local attorney here in town. She has purchased from Robbie Owens the Dillon District 4 building, so she'll be moving her practice over to there, which opens up another space for something new to come in as a lease. And then Alexis Pittman is working on what I remember as a Young World building, and then it turned into the Gigi and Doc's building. It is now going to be Shop Alexis Reed with a much larger location for her, and that's exciting. Once again, it opens up where she is now for a future renter coming in also. So I do want to congratulate both of those women on enlarging what they do and moving forward with a new part of their business venture downtown. In 2022, in February, I did give an estimate or a count of the building inventories, and just wanted to kind of update that since we've got a lot of things going on downtown. Occupied business spaces, addresses that actually have a business inside there, not one building that could be 3 different places, but the actual addresses that have business spaces, and there are 51 now. February 22, there was 47. We have 5 buildings now that are actively being remodeled with the idea of something going into them planned, which is great. Closed businesses, we did have 5 this year, but we've got 7 new businesses as of right now. So that's great. We did do the demolition of the Madison building. We've got 4 condemned buildings now. We have 16 vacant buildings with varying degrees of need. And then we do have 7 buildings that are available for a lease that are vacant right now, and then our 4 for lease, which I think is exciting also. We have a vacant remodel. We're not really sure where that's going, but we do have 1 of those, and then the for sale and the for lease can kind of go back and forth, but we do have 4 buildings right now that are for sale. 1 of those is including the ag building that's been for sale for a while. So our businesses have increased. Once the 5 businesses are remodeled, that'll bring us up to 56 as opposed to 47 in 2022. So I think that's very promising. Mural project, I think we've all seen, hopefully you have. Our wren on the Highway 301 is beautiful. It speaks for itself, and I've really enjoyed working with Tommy, and we look forward to his next one, which will be the little PD with the wood ducks and the cypress and some of the nature, flora and fauna of what we're so famous for here. That'll be going on the Steve Johnson building. And then he'll move into the train, and then the Rozzy will, once the visitor center building is complete with its renovation, the last mural will go up on that particular wall. So we are on track with that. Uniform sign program, I have collected 5 applications. All of the applications have been given personally to all the business owners that are downtown. The other ones have been mailed out to the building owners. So hopefully we'll get at least 10 of those applications. I'm working directly with the business owners to create the logo that's going to be on there. that'll be, then after I get them in place, and I'll work with Carl Owens to see what can and can't do. So there's going to be some going back and forth on that, but we are moving forward with the uniform sign program. And I'd like to introduce Ashley Phillips.
Hello.
I have been gifted with an assistant. Ashley, on Saturday, graduated with her bachelor's degree in sociology.
Social work.
Social work. And she will, her list is long. We've started out with the website is complete with now all the events that are going on. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All the businesses that are downtown, she's updating all that. I think maybe 3 or 4 left to go, and then the list continues as from there. So she'll be working on some events with me, but it's really a lot of the clerical work that I just needed some help. Ooh. So I'll let her say just a little bit about what's going on with Ashley.
Okay, well, I would just like to piggyback off of what Lisa ended with. The directory is almost finished. Like she said, I have about 3 or 4 businesses I want to check in with, just because when I stop by, I don't see a lot of activity. So I really want to stop by and just introduce myself personally. Apart from that, I've also completed the calendar. I have a few changes to make with dates towards the end of the year, but those will be real simple. Those will be finished, and then the entire calendar will be done for this year. After that, I know we have many projects to work on, but because I don't see too many familiar faces, I wanted to take the chance to introduce myself if it's a little important to you guys. So like she said, I did graduate Saturday with my bachelor's in social work. I will be this time next year graduating with my master's in social work to be a clinical social worker, but a part of education, I'm also a former intern at PD Coalition, also a current volunteer, and again, Lisa's assistant, and I just want to say that being in high school, I just graduated in 2017, and going to like the Spring Fest and all of these downtown celebrations, I never knew the collaboration and communication and effort that went into it. So a big thank you, and thank you in advance to the professionalism and the collaboration that you guys are just teaching me along my education and my journey being with Lisa. So thank you guys.
She really is a blessing, I promise. Other projects she'll be working on is the Main Street approach that we work with, and getting started with that, and other duties as assigned. But Main Street, South Carolina has a lot of programs and new platforms, e-commerce platforms that I'd like for her to get involved in. Creation of a newsletter that Glenn's wanted since day one. So she will definitely be busy, and once again, if you see her face around, that's who that new person is. The last thing on my agenda is a Dillon Historic Preservation Grant application that we are seeking approval from council. The process for this particular grant is the grant is submitted if it is substantially investing in a building downtown. A substantial investment means a project that will be at least $50,000 or more in cost. There is a 50% match on repayment. Steve Edwards and his partner Anthony Raul Sanchez have turned in an application for the 111 Railroad Drive. The requirements are 2 quotes from licensed general contractors, documents demonstrating ability to finance the project, and a description of the project. They're all in your packet there. Steve and Anthony chose to get 2 quotes from the plumber, 2 quotes from the sprinkler system, and 2 quotes from the roofers, which is fine. Actually, they had 3, but we only require 2. When they presented this packet to the first approval committee, which includes Benny Jenwright, myself, Nell Vincent, and Jean Berry, it was including the plumbing, the roofing, and the sprinkler system. And based on those quotes that were provided, the first committee did approve for the application to be presented to council for approval also. All of the documents that were submitted were confirmed to be valid. And this afternoon, or actually this morning, it was requested that the plumbing quotes be removed. And it's being requested that the inserting the flooring and the cabinetry be added to this. Originally, Steve and Anthony were going to move ahead with the cabinetry and the flooring without being a part of this application and they were going to go ahead and not submit that because the application monies can only be reimbursed for projects that were approved prior to the beginning of the work. So in order for the plumbing to actually be approved, it couldn't begin until tomorrow. But they had to kind of flip-flop the ideas and get the plumbing done first just because of the way the flooring is. And I'll have Steve come up and explain more of that if you'd like. But what we're asking council at this point is to approve the roofing and the sprinkler portion of the application. And Benny will have tomorrow the 2 quotes for the actual cabinetry and flooring, which will be substituted for that. Those 2 quotes will be provided to the original committee for approval, and it will be submitted to council also. But we are asking for the roofing and the sprinkling to go ahead and be approved so Steve can go ahead and get to work on that tomorrow. The roofing and the sprinkler quotes do exceed the $50,000 requirement, so the requirement is still met for substantial investment in the project. His actual quotes the application will increase. How much are the quotes that we're looking at now for the cabinetry and the flooring?
By the time we're through, we're going to be close to $300,000.
Okay, so,
How many square feet?
About 1,900.
The project description for what the application is intending for is a fully functioning hospitality apartments designed for short-term use. These items will be marketed through Airbnb, Vrbo, and some other short-term rental platforms of less than 28 days. Units will not be available for individuals that live within 75 miles of Dillon. Theme of the units is to encompass musical excellence and an inspirational theme with an elegant southern style that will depict the history of the city of Dillon, highlighting the contributions of Helen Culp, who was Steve's band director, and probably many more of us in the room here as well. Based on the submission of the required documents pre-approved by Grant Program Committee, we approved it on April 11th. We are requesting council to go ahead and approve the roofing and the sprinkling systems so that can go ahead and start. The plumbing part of this has been removed because he started work, or the work was started prior to the approval of this application. So we will get the other 2 quotes to be added to this application and approved by council.
We pay at the end of the project or the end of this part of the project?
End of the project.
Okay.
They've got 2 years to complete the project, so it's a reimbursement.
When everything's said and done within that building, he's issued a business license and a COA, then that's when we pay our portion.
I have a question. And I'm grateful you're doing this, Mr. Steve. I see this as on the summary that you got this to us, but on the agenda, I don't see us where we can take up on that.
Glenn?
So I want to make sure we do it the right way. I want you to be able to move forward.
I think you can do that, you just going to, we've earmarked the money for projects.
I just don't want to get bit like we did last time when we did it.
I think
Make sure we do it the right
I
way.
think you can do it because the committee is making a recommendation to you guys.
And I have the document for Tina that will be signed by council. Should I give this to you for the approval?
So right now, we need a motion.
Make a motion.
I second.
All in favor? Oh, wait, discussion? Any more questions? All right? Aye. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Mr. Edwards?
I just want to say one thing about this construction. I'm not in construction, but I know numbers quite well. When we first came to Dillon, we actually came to Dillon as a joke with a kitchen. Somebody threatened and said, "Oh, you should buy this kitchen." Anyway, we wound up buying a kitchen, and I told my business partner in California, "We bought a restaurant." "What? We're not in the restaurant business." "Where?" "In California." I said, "Not in California, but in South Carolina." So we came down, and he looked at it, he said, "What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?" And I said, "But we can make something of it." It was really to preserve history. Ms. Daniels has been there for 50 years. and she still comes 4 days a week there. So we wanted to preserve her. One thing is I rode around town when I came to Dillon 2 years ago before I originally bought this restaurant. I walked down Main Street and I saw all these empty stores, and I remember looking up and seeing a donut on one side of the store. I think it's somebody's building that's not occupied. And I saw all these empty buildings. And I thought, why are these buildings empty like this? They should not be empty. And I can say one thing, and as I sat at the McColl building where all the mayors are listed by the railroad station on, I guess it was Friday night, or Saturday, whenever it was, and I saw the great capacity of people that were there. But the sad part was there was no money being spent for the people of Dillon there. What I mean by that, there's no businesses downtown for people to spend that money. And I'm being honest with you, I went to the Waffle House this weekend, I went to the Huddle House, I went to Zaxby's, all these people are struggling. I went to the Waffle House at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. They say, I walked in the door and they said, we're only giving to-go orders. I went to Zaxby's, I pulled on the door was locked. Only through the drive-thru. And the reason I'm telling you that, there's a bigger problem in Dillon than I think that we all realize. And that I realized, it took me a while to figure out what was going on when I first came here. And because I was working at the kitchen and people would come by and say, be careful working at night. Because I was working by myself and I kept thinking, what are they talking about? I was laying floor at night, outside. Mr. Cottenham, Steve, don't work at night, stay inside, go inside, don't have your back to the door while you're working on the computer. I thought, what are you talking about? So then we started interviewing people and we tried to hire people and we were paying $13 and $15 an hour. But what I didn't realize, and this is serious stuff, the drug problem in this town. I've been all over the world. I've lived all over the world. I'm from Dillon. I care about Dillon. There should be help for those people here. There should be some kind of state help for those people here. There's none. They just go. They go in Lisa's outdoor shed at night. I watch them from the kitchen. Nothing's going on like that. So when I was coming back from California this time, a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I thought to myself, I spent 7 months in Dillon building the kitchen back to where it should be and preserving history. I don't care about the money's not important. Money comes and goes. But history is what you want to keep. And I thought, and I got off the plane and I started to walk over and I said, but I haven't seen any improvement in businesses on Main Street. What are we going to do with these buildings? Every day, you can build a beautiful house, but if you don't take care of that beautiful house, it starts to rot, it starts to go down, it starts to go down. Where does the money come from to fix that? And the reason I'm saying that, when I bought this McColl building from Corey, who I'm going to kill when I get out of here, when I invested this $100,000 cash to get this building, I didn't realize how much more I was going to have to invest because how neglected these buildings are. And part of the reason that these buildings are neglected is because they're not inspected here. In every town I've ever lived in, a fire marshal comes in, somebody comes in once a year, about to be there 5 minutes, but they coming in, okay, everything looks good. I don't think some people have been in these buildings in years. So I had a friend come from Columbia. We recently bought a place in Columbia for Edna's Kitchen. He said, Steve, why in the world did you buy in this town? And he's an accountant and an engineer. And he said, the first thing, look at all these empty stores on this main street. I said, okay. He said, and the second thing, there's not even a for rent sign in it. I said, are they for rent? Are they for sale? What is it? What is this town? And he said, the only thing I see, any investor that comes in this town is condemn. Nobody is going to take that kind of risk. So I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, I've invested a lot of money and want to invest more money. But
somebody's got to step up and say, these people that own 6 or 7 buildings on Main Street, you either rent them, you either fix them up, or you sell them. But right now, they're killing your downtown. Everything Lisa's trying to do, you're doing it for the railroad track. You're not doing it for the vendors. You got the food trucks, which I love, by the way. Every time a food truck comes to town, we make more money. So bring all of them. But the key being is that when I came here, it was all about downtown Dillon. But I don't hear that anymore. Has that gone away? Is there any, I don't see a for rent sign in one building. You can't, even my friend said, I can't even see in the building. He said, I can't even imagine what I could do because I don't even know what's behind this black curtain. Who do I get to? Who do I talk to? So, I'm a numbers guy. I'm not a Jay. I'm not an accountant. But what I do is I look at how I get people and turn them into money. But I can't turn people into money if people can't see the building. It's 6 people on one building, or 1 person on 6 buildings. They're just, these buildings are dying. You got to remember the most important thing from an engineer's standpoint is these buildings are connected. When one starts to collapse, your next door neighbor starts to collapse. Then what? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for that? Corey's trying to carry on his grandmother's heritage, which was the most beautiful store when I was growing up. And I used to walk the main street of Dillon. It was a pedal pusher. And I came back 2 years ago and I went by there and I thought, I don't know what this is, but this ain't a pedal pusher. But the key is downtown Dillon has the capacity to be there again. But what you have to do is these owners of these buildings have to put a for rent sign in them, a for sale sign in them. They cannot just sit there. And some people, and you don't know this because I walk the streets at night because the kitchen's open from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. They're using them for warehouses because I walk the back alleys and I see them being used for warehouses. This is Main Street. This is where the heart of the community should be at. But we have sunk so much money. And the part of the problem that we had to take this plumbing issue out, which I want to explain to you so you clearly understand, is me not thinking, Doug Miller being doing this for years, Monty Gray been doing this for years, so we followed every rule in the book, and I think Benny will tell you, Benny has been with us through thick and thin, and been more thick than thin. I can tell you that. He's helped us and guided us every step of the way. Well, what we didn't realize when we were saying we're going to put the floor down first, that the plumbing's in the floor. Not in the walls, because the walls are concrete. They didn't have sheetrock back in whenever the McColl building was built. So the plumbing's inside the floor, so you have to actually drill through the beams of the floor to put the plumbing. So we had to reverse that. So that's why it happened that way. So what we could have easily put the floor down, the plumber could have came back in, took the floor back up, put the plumbing down, and put the floor back down again. That made no sense whatsoever. But part of the problem was when we had our architect try to contact the city to get drawings on these buildings, there were no drawings. So it cost us another $30,000 just to get an architect to find out there were no drawings. So if you want people to come to Dillon, several things you got to do. You got to put for rent signs in these doors. You got to get with these people that own all these buildings. They need to fix them up. They need to sell them to the city of Dillon, or they need to do something. Because what she's doing here, all this hard work, is getting us nowhere. They're not bringing people to the stores because there's no stores to bring them to. The only thing she's doing is creating activity and bringing people together, which is admirable. But to give money to a food truck and to take your hospitality tax or whatever tax you get and ride out of town with your sack full of money is wrong. I mean, it's wrong. You know how many people have come to me, and God help me, Steve, open a downtown restaurant. Please open a downtown restaurant. Not in this lifetime. The kitchen was good enough for me. But I I keep thinking, we were talking about the Jackson building at one time, going back and forth. And I thought, the problem is the stuff that surrounds the building. The courthouse is beautiful. The building is absolutely, I think Stephanie will attest to this fact, and she's been in touch with Steve Jackson. It's stunning on the inside. But we're probably looking at $3 million, easy, to renovate it and fix it up. But it would be state-of-the-art. It would bring people to Dillon, But I just want to let you know, I know Corey's going through this, and anybody else that's bought buildings in this town, as you start renovating these buildings, be prepared to have a lot of money. Because it's not going to be, oh, I'm going to be able to fix the roof, I'm going to be able to do this, I'm going to be able to do that. You got to really think it through. And I would suggest that you sit down with Benny, and Benny has a checklist he'll go over with you. What about the roof? What about the flooring? What about this? What about that? And I went through that with them, but even going through that with them, who knew that the plumbing was under the floor and not in the walls? Until we tore part of the floor, and there were the pipes in the floor. I'm thinking, oh my God, so we got to do the plumbing first before we can do the floors. But to bring it all back, the only reason I came back to Dillon after ever how many years is this one thing. 2 years ago when I walked these streets, and I drove these streets, and I swore I'd never come back to Dillon again when I left Dillon. And leaving Dillon actually saved me. That should tell you something. Leaving Dillon actually saved me. Because if I would have stayed in this town, there's not much for kids to do in this town. There's not much for middle income, low income for kids to do. If I would have stayed in this town, I would have probably been one of those people on the books. But I was lucky enough to have a teacher that aspired for me to do great things, that pushed me to do great things. But I wanted to come back and contribute to Dillon. As I drove around, I saw, and these are great people. I know Maxie Rao. He still owes me $5. He borrowed from me at the Dillon Theater when I worked there when I was in 5th grade. Maxie Rao Boulevard, Bill Cower Boulevard, da-da-da-da-da. I don't see one street named after one woman anywhere, one brick, one nothing. Nothing. Where's something named after a woman? Nothing. It's shameful. And without the women, the men won't be here. So my goal was to come back and say, let me preserve Miss Daniels' history, and let me preserve Holocaust history. Even if nobody ever knows it. And you know how many people have contacted me that don't even live in Dillon? That don't even live in Dillon. That want to contribute financially? But we won't take one penny for them. Because this is a commitment that I made. Whether one person stays there or not, doesn't matter to me. It's a monument to her. It's a monument for what she did for Dillon. As my Aunt Mary, who's long gone, told me was not in music, she said, Steve, I'm going to tell you one thing. Helen Cole put Dillon on the map. And right outside Glenn's office, which I was proud to see, he has a picture of the band in his showcase right there. But I can't find a Helen Cole brick, or a rock, or a plant, or a tree. I don't see anything named after Jimmy Strickland. I don't see anything named after these people that really brought Dillon up to where it needs to be when I was growing up. Charles Curry, all the stuff, So, I spend money not because I'm smart. Believe me, I would take this $300,000 and go to Mexico and I could build three condominiums and live the rest of my life. We're building 20 there already. If anybody wants to buy the McColl building and finish it up, come see me, we'll talk about it. But my goal is to turn it into something special and to recognize somebody. But don't overlook, don't take your eye off the ball when it comes to downtown Dillon and these stores that are closed. These stores that have black curtains in front of them. They need to have a for rent sign or a for sale sign. Or a tear down sign. That's options. What do you want to do? You want to sell it? You want to rent it? You want to tear it down? Because it shouldn't be sitting empty because it looks terrible. It looks terrible for investors to come into this town. I spent, and I told Benny this, now I'm up to about $60,000 in money staying in Florence in a hotel. Because you don't have anywhere to stay. In Dillon. What am I going to do? Stay out there and get beat up when I get out my car? Or get shot? I was laying in the bed the other night in California and I said, oh Lord, I'm so glad to be resting. And I was going through my Facebook pages, 3 shot, 2 killed. I was like, oh my Lord, I can't even get away from Dillon in California. But you've got a great thing going here, but don't take your eye off the ball of downtown Dillon, of those stores. I think all of it, and I think Phil agrees with me, you need to refocus on that. Because that is a gold mine down there. It's a gold mine. And I'm willing to pay the gold for the mine. But you've got to have some skin in the game. You've got to stand up and take responsibility and say, fix the building, sell the building, rent the building. We don't want to hold it.
We've got some ordinances that penalize the owners if they don't do something with the building.
I understand that part, and I understand it. You know what? I don't understand it. It's a $250 vacant building. I had to pay it. I bought the building one day. I had to pay a $250 vacant building fee the next day. $250 a year. That comes out to 68 cents a day. A fine of 68 cents a day? I can't even buy a cup of ice at the kitchen for 68 cents. 68 cents a day, that's not a punishment. I'd rather give you $250 and say, okay, take you $250. Next year it's $500, take you $500. Eventually, you know the cost is going to come back to? It's going to come back to the city. Because that person's going to eventually walk away and say, you have the building. You tear it down. You paid $100,000 or $50,000 to tear it down. Then, you get stuck with it. So anyway, that is my little good luck, Corey, on your two buildings. I saw them working over there today, and I was praying for you because my little quarter of a building and your 2 giant buildings. But take the time. The other thing I'd like to say is, which means a lot. It might not mean much to you. When somebody comes to your town to put a business in place, take the time to come see them, to shake their hand, to welcome them. That never happened when I came. I worked on my knees on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. I never saw anybody from the city other than this beautiful lady that worked in the water department, finance lady. I forgot what her name is, next door to Benny. And the lawyer who comes all the time. Okay, both you, Miss Jen. But be grateful when people come to your town and show them you're grateful. And one thing I can say about Tally, since he's come, now I have to stay away from the kitchen because he's over there all the time. Which I don't think he knows where the McColl building is. But there's so many good things here. But look at downtown Dillon. Look at the kids in Dillon in this drug population. Because it's not going to solve itself. It's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And then you already have a crisis on your hand. It just depends on how you solve it. If you don't care about the adult part, care about the kids. Because they need the opportunity that each one of us have had to go on and do great things. But Lisa, Stephanie, all these people that have worked hard, Bill, even though I didn't buy this building, but you get the rest of Main Street pool, I promise you I'll buy it. Now that's an incentive. But anything I can do for anybody, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to help you. But Benny, I want to thank you personally for guiding the way and leading the way. And without you, that might be good or bad, I wouldn't be in Dillon. But thank you for listening. And our editor over here from the Dillon Herald, who's also one of our good customers.
I am.
But thank you so much. But please keep your eye on the ball and keep looking at downtown Dillon.
Thank you.
Steve, thank you very much, and I appreciate those words, and I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you coming to Dillon as the rest of the council does. And you said a lot, and it's hard to hear a lot of that, but we needed to hear it. And I'm not being funny when I say this, but it does sound like you just volunteered for a committee.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to tell you. There's so many committees in this town. everywhere I go, you gotta go to such, what kind of committee is that? Where is that? Who is that, you know? I'm still trying to find out what happened to my $500 I donated to the J.B. Martin Auditorium Fund. I still can't find that. Thank you so much.
All right, Lisa, thank you, and tell Ashley congratulations. All right, let's move right on to Mr. Matthew Elvington, our county economic developer, director.
Where's a good spot? I'm new.
Wherever you want to be.
Oh, boy. Up front,
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me tonight. When I was asked to come speak back then, I didn't really know what to say, didn't really know what to touch on. But as I spoke with the mayor earlier, he said, just kind of give us an update, so I'll be happy to. I did put together a few things, and I guess I'll start off with where Glenn kind of threw my name out earlier. So when I got the email, I don't remember what day it was. I'm sure it's on my phone here because I looked back and saw at 8:32, I texted Glenn to congratulate him on that $10 million grant that he got from RIA to expand the water sewer capacity. Great news for the city of Dillon, great news for the county.
And what did I respond back?
Where we're going to get the 1.5 million.
Do you have it?
That's right. I can appreciate that, Glenn. We have that relationship. It's good. As Glenn mentioned earlier, we have reached out to everybody we know from RIA to our legislators, Washington, everywhere we could, trying to get money to fund that. We haven't found anything yet, but Glenn found that 10, and our goal is to hopefully get something tied down to be able to invest more money in that $90 million wastewater study that was done a few years ago. I'm sure it's more than that now, but definitely great news. I will say before that was announced, I would call Glenn weekly, say Glenn, or either Mike would call and say, hey, I've got this project coming through, you know, can we do it? Do we have the capacity? That was always the first thing. So knowing that thing is coming is great. The only other question I got is how soon are we going to get it? How much allocation do I have for industry out there? It's going to be great. It's going to be awarded. I'll keep everything else brief. I did write down my notes, and I'm going to have to refer to them a few times. A couple of highlights. The port did celebrate 5 years of life last month. Y'all probably saw that. It was in the news. They also kicked off, I met with Barbara this past week at a conference. All she talked about was Dillon Inland Port. They had their biggest month that month as well. They kicked off their 5-year anniversary. With that being said, they're expecting huge things. That's the place where they can see the expansion the most and the fastest. So we're certainly hoping that's going to happen right now. They're pushing logistics, warehouse, that sort of thing there. Of course, we'd love to see that, but we'd also love manufacturing here in Dillon County. So we're also promoting those businesses or industries as well. Just to give you a little background, RFPs, what we call, or RFIs, are informational type documents that we send out, requests for information. We have seen those in Dillon County up to $4 billion so far. The numbers that we're getting and we're seeing are large-scale jobs. Everything that we're getting RFI on are mainly industries that are getting government subsidies, government grants, government funding. It's battery, it's EV type stuff. What the state is really pushing, it's got federal dollars behind it, which I believe is why they're going so high. Of course, federal government's pushing that, and we certainly want it. Envision was announced in Florence. That's a huge project. Phase 1, I think, $1.4 billion. I'm not sure the numbers, but we're hoping to get some spin-offs from that, some distributors of that as well. I've been doing some industry visits the past few weeks. I think I made 6 visits and a 3-day conference in 2 weeks. So I was pretty busy, but just to touch on a few of them. Harbor Freight, of course, they're large one. They got 1,800 employees now. I don't know if y'all heard those numbers or not. Purdue is the next with 1,100, and I'm sure they'll be tickled to hear about this water expansion. I don't want to say too much, but I do know they have some plans if there's some capacity there. Lyman Gordon, one of the things you know about that is PFT is their parent company. They are looking to make Lyman Gordon Dillon the headquarters for CNC and machining for their parent company. That is huge for Dillon County. If we can get behind the board, get our kids trained, the technology that they need, there is no reason why that can't be one of the highlights of Dillon. It already is, but it can really grow really quick and be a good technology program for Dillon County. Also, most of you probably know the robotics from LATA went to the world a while back. That's something that they're looking at Lyman Gordon also, just to try to help them get back to the community. But it's a different type of job, and it's a good job for Dillon County. Phone keeps going to sleep on me. The other couple things I'll touch on is we have 3 potential spec buildings. They're investors that are looking at Dillon County. They vary from a
200,000 square foot spec building up to a 1.5 million square foot spec building. Currently, Dillon County does not really have a spec building. We did have Wicks come back online, and it was purchased and is up for rent now. I'm anticipating that Wicks will be under contract well within 6 months. It's one of the only manufacturing other than right across from Dillon Meat Center with the warehouse there that could be used for manufacturing as well. Big things for Dillon County. Dillon County is busy. We've just got to locate. Right now, everything has slowed down a little bit because of the economy. But like I said, we're still seeing these big jobs with the federal money being back coming through. Other than that, I'll take any questions y'all may have. I'll touch on what I can in depth as much as I can.
Right now, produce use about 1.9 million gallons a day. Do we have 2.2 or 2.4 million problems to
I think it was somewhere around 2.2.
It was 2.8.
It was, I think, 2 point, yeah. They gave back some several years ago.
And I don't want to talk too much about them. I do know at our visit, I think theirs was last week, they did hope that if the capacity went up, they had some new areas that they could kind of venture out in and would really help that business thrive there as well.
Where are your landing spots for the spec buildings?
They are all over, I can tell you that. Some of them are in Tri-County Park, some are outside Tri-County Park. Some of them are on the other side of 301 501 from the interstate.
How much longer is the Tri-County Park agreement with the counties, the neighboring counties? Do you know?
Yes, at least 15 or 20 years, but everything that's in place stays in place, my understanding. The last 140 acres of that Tri-County Park has been purchased, and that's one of them. If you ride by Fairfield, you'll see Equus has a big sign out there. They're looking to build, but they want to build the suit. One of the big things we're missing to borrow in Dillon County is everybody's willing to build the suit, and in this economy, you would expect that. But it's hard to sell green space. Everybody has green space now, and that's why we're looking so hard at spec building, even incentivizing these people that are wanting to put spec buildings to try to locate them. The sooner the better, and the sooner we can sell them. Okay.
Any plans for the airport?
It's been talked about. I will say that Tim, our new administrator, has put that at the top of his list. We've talked about it a couple of times, even as far as trying to expand, which I don't think we can, and even looking for a new area as well.
Harley Bridge, on the west side of Harley Bridge Road was the original site that they were going to put.
Okay.
But you're right, they got to add a lot to that swamp to make that airport large enough to bring in a jet or even a large twin.
And on all the RFPs that come in, they want to know how far they are. I will say one thing, that Tim did find some money that you can tap into, and he's looking at expanding that. I think he got $300,000 or something for addition to the airport and before he left. So it is something that's high on his list, and we're certainly looking at expanding.
Did we ever find out the facilities building was in the city enough?
Yes.
It is in the city? You're talking about weeks, might be having somebody take that building. Now that it's changed ownership, can we annex that into the city then?
Go ahead.
Yeah. We got some of Weeks roads in.
Change the ownership, can we annex the Wicks building in? Yeah, it's not contiguous. The Wicks building is not contiguous.
Don't go for Vesuvius.
Vesuvius is not in the city either. But the Wicks building is not contiguous.
We're missing all out, man.
What's that?
We're missing out on all this property tax money that the county gives, and your neighboring counties gives. We just can't grow it. We got to have that. We're missing it. We're going to put the burden back on the citizens for 2 months. Because we don't get anything from it. It's not your fault.
I don't understand how that works.
With the fee in lieu in the Tri-County Park agreement you had, we can't annex them in. And your neighboring counties are getting 6-figure property tax money. And the city gets nothing. We offer a lot of services out there.
Sure.
That's a big issue.
I would, we can certainly discuss those things and the pros and cons of each one of them, but I prefer to do that executive session if you want to do that. And really talk about
We'd like for you to come back, because I'd like for you to talk about, see what we can do to help. We will put the burden back on the citizens, if it's possible. Thank you for coming.
That'll give us a good topic to start with when we get together. You guys have any questions for Matthew?
Yes, ma'am.
and this may not necessarily be for Matthew, but this is, I'd like to know, what can the city do? How can we partner with the county to increase economic development, to promote our city development as well?
Sure, so it depends on how far you want to take economic development. We talked with Glenn, I've talked with Glenn a couple times about potential housing developments. Located some properties, trying to find investors. We have an investor we're meeting with next week. So it goes all the way down to residential, all the way up to industrial, commercial, whatever it is that we can do to help. The water sewer is a huge one. Incentive, if y'all wanted to identify a project or a property and say, hey, we want to annex that in, we want to go in part, we want to offer incentives on the spectrum. I'm sure that's part of the conversation we could have with the county as well. It would already be inside the city limits, but of course it would be everyone at the table together and everybody contributing. So there's multiple ways we can. I think the key is really to getting this all together and sitting down and seeing where those needs are. But yes, everything from housing to industry and everything in between. We'd love to partner and kind of make everything grow together.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Since, anything else, citizens report? Anybody got anything out there? Everybody's tired? Yes. All right, let's go straight into old business. You okay, Lynn?
Yeah.
All right. Straight into old business. Ordinance 2307 authorizing and directing the city of Dillon to enter into an intergovernmental agreement relating to the South Carolina local revenue. Do I have a motion? This is the second reading.
Make a motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Ordinance 2308, the annex of Top Locker Storage of Dillon on the 1600 block of Highway 301 North.
I make a motion.
Second. Ordinance 2309, amending Title V of the code, ordinance to allow hotels in the central business district. Second reading. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
A second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, new business. Ordinance 2310, adopting a budget 2023 through 2024, first reading.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Resolution 4-23, a resolution authorizing a retiree health insurance plan. I think this was in our packet. Do I have a motion? You want to talk first?
Well, go ahead and get your motion if you want, then during
Make a
discussion.
motion.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
All right, we've been talking about retiree health insurance plan now for about a year or two, or maybe a little bit longer. As it sits right now, if someone retires from the city, they can take our insurance, but whatever that cost of that insurance is there is 100%, no cost from the city. Some of the discussion we've had in the past was to give things to our employees to keep them and to attract employees as well, was to offer a retiree health insurance, which, again, we have that in place now, but it's 100% their cost if they retire. But this would be if they met certain guidelines, and I've spelled them out in the resolution, that they would pay a portion of that health benefit up until they're the age of 65, and the city would continue paying a portion of that health benefit as well up to the age of 65. I've been working on it again, like I said, at least 2 years, trying to make it as simple as possible. It's not really going to be as simple as I was hoping. And the reason is we have two different types, or actually 4 types of possible retirees. You've got what is known as Tier 2 South Carolina retirement employee, which are those of us who were hired with any local government and was in the retirement system prior to July of 2012 that are non-police. Then you have what is known as the police retirement system, Tier 2 or Classification 2, are police officers who were hired prior to July 1st, 2012 that worked with any local government or was on the retirement system their qualifications are a little bit different than those that are non-police, and that years served through PIBA for them to get their full benefit of retirement. When I say full benefit of retirement is pension plan, not insurance, but pension. And then you have what is known as the South Carolina Retirement System Class 3 member. These are people who were hired and went into the retirement system after July 1st, 2012, who have a different standard for those in the Class 2, meaning that their length of service is a little bit longer because the state wanted people to stay a little bit longer so they wouldn't have to pay out as much in retirement pension as with the previous years of those that were hired prior to July of 2012. And then you have the police officer in the retirement system also as a Class 3 member. So we have 4 different groups that are involved in this. And I break it down again. In the South Carolina Retirement System Class 2 member are those folks who have been employed 28 or more years in the retirement system, with the last 20 years being with the city of Dillon. The benefit ends on the employee's 65th birthday. So if someone has been working or in the retirement system for at least 28 years, and the last 20 of those 28 years are with the city of Dillon, they could get a benefit from the city for the retirement health insurance. Class 3 member is 22 years, then they have this total of 90 years service and age has to equal 90 years. Police officers, 25 years or more service, with the last 20 years being, and then the other one was 27 years or more service, with the last 22 being with the city. All that being said, any employee who retires from the city with 30 or more years of service with the city will pay the same premium as an active employee and will pay monthly to the city of Dillon. And that benefit ends on their 65th birthday. And the city of Dillon would pay what their portion was and always will be. An employee who retires with less than 30 years of service with the city will pay the same premium for this retiree as if they were an active employee, and will pay monthly to the city of Dillon for those portion of premiums. However, someone who retires with less than 30 years of continuous service with the city, any premium increase that the city would absorb on a normal basis, that retiree has to absorb those increases as well. So someone who works less than 30 years with the city and meets other qualifications, the city would always pay their portion of the premium that they paid on that active employee. That would never change, that exact same amount. That retiree would pay any additional cost over those years. Now, an employee who retires with 30 or more years, only thing they're going to pay is their premium at whatever the active employee is, but the city would pay any of the increases on the city side.
Glad you simplified that.
Well, it's not simple as I wanted it to be, but that's where it is. And we will, if this passes, we will have this as part of our budget in the coming year. As of today, I anticipate in this next coming budget year, 2 at the most, possibly just 1, we will take advantage of this.
What do you think our exposure would be, or what do you think this would cost us? Let's just say 2 employees.
Well, one of them would only be on it for about 3 years. Another one could be on it upward to 6 years.
15,000 a year.
It's
It's about 500. Right now, it's $500 and something we pay per month per employee.
Yeah.
515, I think, so, well, those just around $7,000 a year, so roughly. And then plus whoever you replace that person with, their cost.
I think it's a great incentive to attract employees, and I also think it's a great incentive to keep good employees. So let's go ahead and call this to a vote.
Well, you got it for discussion. I don't know if anybody on council has any discussion.
Jump ahead, you guys.
I mean, you got a motion and a second.
We got 2 more times to think about it and discuss it.
No, this is just a one-time deal. This is a resolution, just meaning that you can change it anytime you want.
And what you're anticipating is, going by what the mayor just said, it costs us like $15,000, $7,500 this year.
It's about $7,500 a year that you're paying for each employee. So, and what we'll try to do is each budget year have some idea of who's possible that meet these qualifications. You know. Now, once they reach 65, we don't pay more, but they can keep it and pay it 100% themselves. And this is only for, what we would pay for would be only the retirees, not any dependents. They could keep the dependent coverage or spousal coverage, that they would have to pay us whatever that cost is.
But if the city saw down the road that it was so very expensive, they could change it either way they wanted to. It could be changed.
Would you model this after, is there another city?
Everybody does it differently. I mean, if the state's plan is, and I'll use class 2 numbers, all you gotta do is meet the 28 years of service and be a certain age, and, well, actually, you don't have to meet the 28 years of service, you just have to be a certain age, but you have to have been employed at least 5 years. You know, we sure don't want to do that. I mean, that could be too costly. I think the county does it. I think theirs is different steps as well. And then you have some municipalities that don't offer it all. I think the city of Bennettsville doesn't offer it. If I remember correctly, Florence County is, you have to be within 15 or more years to qualify. So it just varies from different locations.
But if they qualify for retirement, they would still have to pay whatever your rate is.
Yes.
If they qualify for retirement.
And first, they've got to qualify to get full benefit through the pension plan. If you're full benefit from the pension plan, then you get to qualify for this.
All right, call a question? All in favor? Aye.
Thanks for being patient with me on this one.
All right. Resolution 05-23, authorizing the purchase of fitness equipment for the wellness center.
We've been talking about this for the past year or two as well. Actually, we started right before COVID looking at this, and then through COVID, we kind of backed off and started again. But you should have in your packet, if I'm not mistaken, the quote to replace a good bit of our equipment, which totals up about $98,000. Janet pulled for me back in 2007 when we bought our original equipment, roughly about the same amount of money. Now, all that being said, a good portion of our equipment we had from a heavy weight stuff was donated from the hospital. So this is to replace some of our treadmills, some of our heavier weightlifting equipment, things of that nature. We can get this through a cooperative purchasing with Carolina Fitness. Cooperative purchasing is a national cooperative that we've done in the past.
Where the funds coming from?
This would come from, I think I got in here, 2% funds.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? All right.
You didn't have a discussion. You got a motion and a second, and no discussion.
You guys want to discuss that anymore? We can go through
I
all
know
that. We'll go through all that.
you were going through it quickly.
All right. Resolution 0623, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Ford Super Duty F-250.
All right, this one, we purchased a Chevrolet Silverado back in the summer of last year through ARP funds that we had earmarked to use to pick up household debris that people would put out by the road, furniture, couches, TVs, what have you. We got one guy on that truck, and it was a small flatbed truck that actually was worn out, and the floorboard, you could actually see through it if I'm not mistaken. So we decided to buy a 1500 Silverado and then buy a trailer to attach to it, which would be easier for him to put in. Then as he took it to the landfill, all he had to do was mash a button and that trailer's done. Certain areas of the landfill, this just doesn't work. The truck's not actually heavy enough for us to carry that trailer into the landfill. It's only got 2,000 miles on the truck. Bert and I discussed it, trying to figure out what we could do to better utilize what we were trying to get done. And he found a vehicle, a Super Duty 250 in Fayetteville, made by Ford. They were going, as you saw in the term sheet that I submitted with it, this new truck's total sale price is $46,500. They will give us $36,000 for the one that's less than a year old. That's got 2,100 miles on it. So it costs us an additional $10,500 to get a heavier duty truck. And then I figured we can use it. This is more beautification. We do have $10,500 in our beautification that we could use this for.
All right, can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, discussion? All in favor?
Thanks, guys. That's all I have.
All right, councilman reports. Let's start down here with Tim since we started here last time. All right.
Well, I'm gonna start off by saying that I want to relinquish my place on the downtown committee because the company I drive for, they make sure I'm home on Monday nights, and it's kind of hard for me to get home to be on that committee, so I'm gonna back away from that duty, and Tally's schedule a little bit better than mine. So I would like for him to take my place on the committee if that's fine with Stephanie.
That's fine with me.
And Ben, I want to thank you for all you do. David, Bert, I've been calling those guys for the last couple of weeks, and every time I call them, they didn't call me right then, they would always pick up. We had a concerned citizen, a little boy walking down the road on number 9, and I'm like, call 911, but I said, well, I called 911, I called David. I'm like, I should have just called 911, but I'm like, David would probably get somebody quicker and can tell them exactly more what it was, because it was just a concerned citizen calling about a little child or somebody. I don't even know, I didn't even follow it back up, but I called David and I think he took care of it because I never heard any more about it. But I want to thank those guys for everything they do. Keith for what you're doing with the fire department, helping the county out a whole lot because they're short-handed, and Hardy for all you do. So thank y'all guys for all the hard work you do.
I don't have anything to mind.
I got a couple of things. The splash pad, is it gonna be online in June for
Hopefully next week.
next week?
We got
Be nice
fence.
the weekend.
Yeah, we got fence we're gonna try to put up around it this week. And as soon as the fence is up, and
Me and the mayor's talk, how about a shelter? What do you think about getting a shelter out there for the family members and stuff? I mean, just so they can be by the heat so much.
well, what we're looking at is a sunshade
Tarp.
tarp type thing that goes over playground equipment. Just trying to find one that's cost effective. The last one I looked at was like $40,000. So we're just trying to work through some things. But yeah, we've got to have some shade for those areas. And I've got to get some benches as well. So that'd be something we'll add on down the road.
Another thing we talked about was like pickleball. You think since we bought that area of land right there, we might do a pickleball court or something?
We could, but we have, I talked with the high school, we can utilize theirs, their tennis courts. They told
Would
me
the older people like the Wellness Center know about it?
And since it has lights on it, you know, people can play at any and all times, but especially at night as well. So we are working on that. I think that would save us about that, a good bit of money building something new, because it's there in place. We just got to renovate, put new lines down on there's 5 tennis courts. They told me I could use 2 for pickleball purposes.
The demolition list, where are we at with the demolition list?
We have to have an asbestos survey done before we bid out this project. They finished up today on that survey, and they told me I should have something in the next 2 weeks on the asbestos survey for these properties. Once I get that in hand, we'll bid that back out, and hopefully they will start. See, that would be end of June, and the bids would be due probably. So late August, first of late August would be probably when they would start, whoever got the contract for it.
I'm gonna tackle the elephant in the room.
I'm sorry?
I'm gonna tackle this elephant in the room.
Oh, okay.
And there's nothing against David Lane at all, because I think Chief Lane, you got a hard road to hold on. We definitely got a crime problem. We're losing kids like nothing. I mean, what we lose, 5 in the last 3 weeks? And as a leader in this community, people have reached out to me, and I'm requesting this, that somehow with the mayor, and I hope you will help me support me on this, is that we get our sheriff, we get our chief of police, also our mayor, will have a town hall meeting for our citizens, so they can know what's going on. I have a lot of people call me, especially 1 block from my house. A young man lost his life, and 2 are still fighting for their life, from my understanding. And I watched our rescue squad bust their ass to save these young boys. And I'm very appreciative of it. But after it all happened, my phone rang off the hook, and I couldn't tell these people what was going on. And I feel like I let them down, and I did. I called them, and I'm thankful that you gave me some information. But there's got to be some way we can get some info out to let they're traumatized. These people didn't even want to get out their house. I think Steve just mentioned it. Some way of getting some information out to let us know if a suspect is being caught, is in custody, something that will help me. I don't know if other council members just experience this or not, but let me know or let the council know in a text so I can be prepared to let these citizens know. And another thing is, we're losing police officers. I don't want to speak for you, David, but I think you lost, 4 in the last week, and possibly going to lose more to the state pretty soon.
I'm down.
You want to touch on?
I'm down 5 police officers.
5 police officers. So I'm asking that the mayor and this council support what I just asked, so we can let our citizens know. I mean, we've lost 5 young men in less than 3 weeks, and I think it's time for us, and if I have to be a part of it, fine, but to let these citizens know what we're trying to do to get rid of this crime we got going on. I don't have the answer, but I just hope that we can all share ideas and we can get a time, and the sheriff will take part, you take part, and just answer the questions that these people's got on their minds. And if anybody else wants to elaborate on it, I mean, you're welcome to do it. But I just think that I had to bring it to the table because I had a lot of people ask me that they'd like to speak in a forum and ask questions. I'll leave it like that, and that's all I have.
All right. I do want to thank all of y'all for sitting through the meeting tonight. It's been really long. So let's close out with Mr. Beanie giving our prayer, and then we'll move to executive session. All right. Oh, we need the motion. Let's make a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, I make a motion.
Any discussion?
Let's bow our heads. Lord our God, our Father, just once again, dear Lord God, we thank you for blessing us to be in assembly on tonight, a city council meeting, to make decisions for the betterment of all the citizens of Dillon. Dear Lord God, we continuously ask that you bless our mayor and city council, our city manager, city attorney, all our department heads on tonight, and the citizens of Dillon as we continuously meet together to make the decisions for the betterment of all the citizens of Dillon, and that the city of Dillon prosper. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.